What's going on, fellow engineers? In your Nissan Altima, there's a message that comes up that lets you know when it's time to change the oil. So I'm going to show you how to do that. All right, to begin, you'll need to climb under and remove the drain plug. And so for the 5th generation Altima, you'll need a 14 millimeter socket. And so all you do is loosen that socket up and remove the plug. And be sure to catch the plug, otherwise the plug will end up in your oil. Um, and so during this time, I always take the opportunity to kind of look at the color of the oil, make sure it doesn't have like any milky substance or whitish color to it. It should really be a brown or very dark brown, like a dark chocolate brown. Also, I take the opportunity to remove the washer that is on the drain plug. And also on the top half of the engine, I usually take off the oil cap, and that allows for the air to come through. As you know, when you pour stuff, you need air behind it, otherwise it will take it longer to flow out. And so usually I open the oil cap as well for that purpose. I don't know if it really actually helps or not, but I kind of think it does. Since if you're draining it out on one end, there's no way for air to come back in on the opposite end of the engine or through another inlet on the engine. And while I'm letting that oil drain, I also took the opportunity to do some other work that I had to do on the vehicle. In this particular scenario, I had to change the light bulb for one of the fog lights. And so, it allows you to pass the time by doing other things. All right, so now that some time has passed, I climb back under and reinstall the drain plug, and you'll want to be sure to tighten it. It may be a little bit difficult to tighten it with the crush washer, the new crush washer on it, but be sure to tighten it down as much as possible. Don't over tighten it though, because then you'll risk damaging the plug or the hole that it goes in. And if you do that, you'll have to replace the oil pan, which is not fairly cheap. To remove the oil filter, you'll have to go on the passenger side, right behind the tire. And it's easier if you have some oil filter pliers. It's a very tight fit. If you have trouble getting behind the tire, you can easily take the tire off and then reach behind the plastic shield where the filter is located to get it to drain. But my preference is usually just to leave it on, because as you see, I have my vehicle raised on the ramps, and that allows me to get under the vehicle that way. And if you take the tire off, you won't be able to do that. So something to keep in mind if you're using ramps. And so one thing I hate about removing the filter on this vehicle is that the frame where the engine mounts onto is directly below where all the oil runs out at. In addition, there is some kind of coolant or other line that runs along this frame member. So when it drains out, you have to go back and clean all that oil off of there, because otherwise you'll have just oil sitting on the frame and whatever that line is. And I'm not sure if that's not sure if that's a coolant line or a fuel line. It is a metal line of some sort. And so usually I just always wipe it off to make sure that, I don't get any kind of smoke from it or anything of that nature. And so once I remove that filter, I go get the new filter, and I always fill up the new filter with oil, fresh oil that is, because when you open the filter brand new, it is completely dry. And so the last thing you want to do is to start the engine with a dry filter, because the first amount of oil that does go through that filter will actually be the oil that makes that filter moist. And then only once it has absorbed enough oil will that remaining oil actually go through the filter back into the engine. And so that's you also, when you're putting on a new filter, you'll want to oil the rubber gasket on there, and that will make sure that that gasket makes a proper seal onto the mounting plate there. And also, you do not want to cross thread the oil filter, because if you do, it'll leak. So that's a bad thing. And over the years, when you change brands, even the Nissan filter has changed for this vehicle. So I did a comparison of the size because it didn't seem to be the right one, but it did actually get on there and it did fit. So that's just something to check. Make sure the replacement part on there is the right one that you got. All right, once you have put the oil filter on, the next step is to fill up the engine with the recommended amount of oil. And so for mine, it is 4 7/8 quarts. So usually I just buy the 5 quart bottle, and that last little bit I put over into a smaller bottle. And over the number of oil changes I've had to do, I've actually gotten a full quart from that. So it's kind of like you buy, buy 5 get 1 free type deal. And so be sure to use a funnel. You can pour the oil without a funnel, but I find it easier to do it with a funnel. And then after you have done all of that, check the oil level using the dipstick. It may not be 100% accurate, but you do want to make sure that the oil is within range. And if you have your vehicle up on ramps like I do, sometimes that level will be off of the recommended mark on the dipstick. But as long as it's within that, sufficient range, because usually there's a minimum level and a maximum level of the oil. As long as it's within that range, you should be good to go. And so after that, you'll want to go into vehicle settings and go on to maintenance, service, and then reset the service counter. And that will clear the oil filter maintenance notification that shows up on the dash. So that concludes this video. If you have any questions or comments about anything that you've seen in this video, please be sure to drop those in the comment section below. Also, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at almostengr. And please be sure to subscribe if you have not already. Until next time, peace out.